Good evening, friends. I invite you to leave all the worries of the day at the door. Get comfortable, perhaps wrapped in a soft blanket, and allow yourself to immerse yourself in a world where time flows differently. A world of silence, wisdom, and countless treasures. Our journey today will be leisurely and peaceful. It will take us to the very heart of ancient libraries. Imagine. The evening is softly falling outside the window. The last rays of the sun are dissolving in the twilight, and the world is slowing down. It is at such moments that it is especially pleasant to plunge into stories that take us far from the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Today, we will go on a journey through the centuries, following corridors filled with millions of books, each of which holds someone's whisper, someone's dream, someone's discovery. Libraries. These majestic, tranquil places have always been more than just repositories of books. They have been sanctuaries for thought, treasure houses of knowledge, and, most importantly, keepers of human memory. Within their walls, time stands still, and you can feel the invisible presence of the thousands of minds that have turned these pages, scribbled in the margins, or simply reflected on what they read. We will move slowly, allowing each image, each sound, each word to gently envelop you, lulling you and carrying you away to a world of calm. There is no rush, only the gentle flow of time which books are able to distort and stretch at their whim. They carry us through the centuries, allow us to touch stories that happened hundreds and even thousands of years ago, and feel a connection with those who lived long before us. Imagine a library not as a static building, but as a living organism. It breathes stories, each page of which is an inhalation or exhalation of time. It rustles when the wind comes through the ancient windows, or when someone's hand carefully pulls a volume from the shelf. This world smells of the dust of centuries, old paper and ink that has long dried but still retains its power. Tonight, we will not seek out big events or exciting adventures. Instead, we will focus on calming images, dusty shafts of light filtering through stained glass windows, the soft bindings of books under your fingers, the deep silence broken only by your own breathing. This is a journey designed to calm your mind and relax your body. Prepare to dive into this special world. Let go of all the thoughts that are swirling around in your head. Allow yourself to simply be here and now, in this space where knowledge and peace merge. We begin our slow but incredibly deep journey through ancient libraries. Let every step, every word lead you to complete relaxation and, perhaps, to the sweetest dreams. Our journey begins at the very beginning, at a time when the very concept of a book was just emerging. We are transported to the sultry lands of ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia, where the first repositories of knowledge were created. Imagine the shifting sands of the desert, the grandeur of the pyramids, and the slow, majestic flow of the Nile. It was here, at a time when paper in the modern sense did not yet exist, that the first libraries appeared. In ancient Egypt, knowledge was recorded on papyrus, a material made from the stems of the papyrus plant. Scribes carefully split the stems, laid them crosswise, pressed them, and dried them, creating thin but strong sheets. These sheets were then glued together to form long scrolls that could be tens of meters long. Imagine these scrolls, carefully rolled up and stored in clay jars or special boxes. When a scribe or scholar wanted to read a scroll, he would slowly unroll it, reading the text from right to left, and then carefully roll it up again. You can almost hear the soft rustle of the papyrus being unrolled, that quiet sound that accompanied the acquisition of knowledge. One of the most grandiose symbols of ancient knowledge was the Library of Alexandria. It was founded in the 3rd century BC in the Egyptian city of Alexandria and quickly became the center of learning for the entire ancient world. It is said that its collections numbered up to 700,000 scrolls, which was a truly colossal figure for that time. The greatest minds of their time gathered in its halls: mathematicians, philosophers, astronomers, and poets. The atmosphere there must have been filled with intellectual tension, but at the same time with deep peace. Unfortunately, the greatness of the Library of Alexandria was interrupted, it was destroyed in several fires, and most of its priceless collections were irretrievably lost. This reminds us of the fragility of knowledge and the importance of its preservation. In addition to papyrus, parchment was widely used. It was made from specially treated animal skin and was a much more durable and strong material. It was possible to write on both sides of parchment, which made it more economical to use. The process of creating parchment was labor-intensive and included many stages: soaking the skin, cleaning it from wool, stretching it on frames, and polishing. The sound of a pen scratching on parchment was common in scriptoria, where scribes copied texts day after day. These ancient scribes were the first keepers of knowledge. They spent long hours bent over scrolls, carefully writing each hieroglyph or letter. Their work was monotonous but extremely important. They did not simply copy texts, they preserved cultural heritage, religious texts, scientific discoveries, and literary works for future generations. Their concentration and dedication to the task were incredible. Imagine the dim light of torches or oil lamps illuminating their work, shadows dancing on the walls, and a deep enveloping silence broken only by the sound of the pen and the occasional sigh of the scribe. It was a time when every written line was a treasure and every scroll a work of art and a repository of wisdom. We leave these ancient lands for a moment, taking with us a sense of age-old wisdom and the quiet whisper of the first written words. May these images help you feel connected to the very cradle of human knowledge. Our leisurely journey continues, and we are transported from the hot deserts of the ancient world to the cool, secluded walls of the medieval monasteries of Europe. Imagine misty dawns, the ringing of bells calling for prayer, and the atmosphere of deep concentration that reigned in these monasteries. In an era when, after the fall of the Roman Empire, much of knowledge was in danger of disappearing, it was the monastic orders that became the main guardians and copyists of texts. The heart of each monastery, responsible for preserving and increasing knowledge, was the scriptorium. This was a special room, often bright and airy, where the monks, scribes, or scribs spent most of their days. Their lives were dedicated to painstaking work, copying ancient manuscripts, rewriting biblical texts, and creating new religious and scientific works. Imagine rows of wooden tables on which lie parchments, inkwells, and quills. Each monk sits bent over his work in complete silence, broken only by the soft rustle of parchment and the squeak of a goose quill slowly writing letters. The main writing material at that time was parchment, which we have already discussed. It was expensive and required a lot of effort to make, which made each book a real treasure. The monks also often made their own ink, using natural dyes from plants, minerals, or soot. The shades of ink could vary from deep black to various shades of brown and red. Bright pigments were used to decorate the manuscripts, creating so-called illuminated manuscripts, real works of art with ornate initials, miniatures, and ornaments. This was work that required not only diligence, but also artistic talent and deep faith. The value of each book in the Middle Ages was incredibly high. Before the invention of printing, each copy of a text was created by hand, and it could take months or even years to produce a single book. So books were kept as the greatest treasures, often chained to shelves in monastery libraries to prevent them from being stolen. This custom, which seems strange to us now, was a testament to their pricelessness. The scriptorium was a silent place. The monks worked in concentration, often in complete silence, broken only by the rhythmic breathing, the rustling of pages, and the scratching of a pen. This silence contributed to the deep concentration and meditative state in which these masterpieces were created. Each curl, each letter, was written with great reverence and attention to detail. It was a labor not only for the preservation of knowledge, but also for spiritual growth. Imagine the pale light filtering through the narrow windows of the scriptorium, illuminating the parchment and the monk's hands. Perhaps, at times, the air was filled with the faint smell of fresh parchment and ink. This was a time when monks, isolated from the bustle of the world, worked tirelessly to preserve and transmit the cultural and intellectual heritage for future generations. They were the true guardians of the light of knowledge in the dark ages. Let this image of peaceful work and deep silence fill your consciousness, taking you further and further away from everyday life and closer to a peaceful sleep. We continue our lulling journey through the centuries and now find ourselves in the Renaissance. Imagine how, after the long night of the Middle Ages, a new dawn of light, art, and a thirst for knowledge dawned in Europe. It was a period when humanity rediscovered the wisdom of the ancient Greeks and Romans, and with it came a new, completely different attitude towards books. During this era, books ceased to be the exclusive property of monasteries. Private collections appeared, and wealthy merchants, scholars, and kings began to assemble their own libraries. Books became a symbol of status, education, and intellectual power. Royal libraries grew, filling up not only with religious texts, but also with secular works, philosophical treatises, scientific works, poetry, and historical chronicles. Imagine luxurious halls, decorated with wood and velvet, where books in expensive bindings stand on shelves, waiting for their readers. But the most revolutionary event of this era was the invention of movable type printing. Around the middle of the 15th century, in the 1440s, German master Johann Gutenberg made a breakthrough that changed the world forever. Before this, every book was copied by hand, which made them incredibly rare and expensive. Gutenberg's invention made it possible to replicate texts much faster and cheaper. Picture the first printing presses. They were noisy but wondrous places, wooden presses smelling of ink, metal types carefully arranged by typesetters. The sound of the press creaking and the rustle of freshly printed sheets became the new soundtrack to the dissemination of knowledge. It was the magic of turning an idea into hundreds, then thousands of tangible copies. The impact of the printing press on the dissemination of knowledge was enormous. books became more widely available to the general population. This contributed to the growth of literacy, the development of education, and the acceleration of scientific progress. Ideas could now spread at a speed never before seen. Scientists could read the works of their colleagues in other countries, philosophers could share their thoughts, and ordinary people were able to learn more about the world than ever before. The first printed books, or incunabula as they are called, were incredibly beautiful. They often imitated handwritten books with richly decorated first letters and illustrations. Their creation required great skill and precision. Each copy was not just a carrier of information, but also a work of art, the result of the painstaking work of many people. We leave behind this era of great changes, where the old traditions of handwritten books intertwined with the revolutionary innovation of printing. Feel how this flow of knowledge, which began with the first scrolls, gains strength and becomes a full-flowing river, carrying you to a deep and peaceful sleep. Our soothing journey through ancient libraries continues, and now we are transported to the heart of Rome, to the tiny but grandiose state of Vatican City. Here, behind massive walls, lies one of the oldest and most important libraries in the world, the Vatican Apostolic Library. Imagine an atmosphere of deep antiquity, mixed with centuries-old awe. Its history spans over 500 years, although the roots of its collection go much deeper, to the early Middle Ages. Founded in the mid-15th century, in the 1440s, by Pope Nicholas V, it was conceived as a repository not only of religious texts, but of all knowledge that existed at that time. It was a truly ambitious undertaking that became a reality. Imagine its architecture, majestic halls decorated with frescoes by great masters, high ceilings that seem to go up endlessly. The air here is saturated with the smell of old parchment, wax, and centuries of history. The collections of the Vatican Library are truly countless. It contains tens of thousands of manuscripts, many of which are unique and priceless, as well as hundreds of thousands of incunabula, books printed before 1500. The Vatican Library has traditionally been closed to the general public, which adds to its aura of mystery and exclusivity. Only a select few scholars and researchers are allowed access to its treasures. This restriction only adds to the feeling that you are in a sacred place where knowledge is kept that is not available to everyone. You can imagine those lucky few who are granted permission to enter these halls with awe and reverence. Among its unique exhibits, there are real gems. For example, the Vatican Codex, one of the oldest and most complete manuscripts of the Bible in Greek, dating back to the 4th century, or the manuscripts of Virgil dating back to the 5th century, which have survived all the storms of history. Each such document is not just an ancient text, but a living testimony of long-gone eras, a voice of the past that has reached us. As you immerse yourself in the atmosphere of the Vatican Library, you can feel not just the weight of knowledge, but also the weight of time. This is a place where every touch of a book, every glance at an ancient manuscript takes you back in time, allowing you to touch the deep wisdom accumulated by humanity over 2 millennia. Let these images of grandeur and deep mystery soothe your mind, taking you into a dream world filled with age-old knowledge. Our soothing journey now takes us to the misty shores of Britain, to one of the oldest and most prestigious universities in the world, Oxford. Here, in the heart of this academic city, is the majestic Bodleian Library. Imagine the atmosphere of centuries of knowledge, strict traditions, and reverent silence that reigns within its ancient walls. The history of the Bodleian Library is closely linked with the name of Sir Thomas Bodley, a distinguished scholar and diplomat who, in the late 16th century, in the 1590s, undertook the monumental task of restoring and developing the university library, which had fallen into disrepair. His vision was clear: to create a great repository of knowledge accessible to all scholars. One of the most famous features of the Bodleian Library is its strict rules, which have been observed for many centuries. For example, for a long time, there was a ban on taking books out of the library. This meant that all scholars, from students to professors, had to work with materials only in its reading rooms. This created a unique atmosphere of common diligence and concentration. It is said that even kings who visited the library had to follow these rules. Imagine its majestic reading rooms, high ceilings decorated with wood carvings, huge windows through which soft light penetrates, long tables of dark wood at which students and researchers sit, bending over old volumes. The air here is filled with that special sweet smell of old paper that bibliophiles love so much. This is a place where you can literally feel the weight of history and centuries-old traditions. The Bodleian Library has become a true symbol of British learning and research. It is one of only 5 legal deposit libraries in the UK, meaning it has the right to receive 1 copy of every book published in the country. As a result, its collections are constantly growing, covering every area of human knowledge. Walking through its corridors, you can imagine the countless great minds who studied and created here: writers, scientists, philosophers. Each of them left their invisible mark on these walls, nourishing the atmosphere of intellectual exploration and inspiration. Let the image of this majestic library, its age-old rules and deep silence, fill your mind with a sense of peace and stability, taking you to a soft and serene sleep. Our lulling journey through the repositories of knowledge continues, and now we are transported to the heart of Paris, the capital of France. Here, in this city of light and art, is the Grand National Library of France, or as the French call it, the Bibliothèque Nationale de France. Imagine majestic boulevards, elegant buildings, and a light Parisian breeze that carries the aroma of coffee from nearby cafes. This library has an incredibly long and rich history, dating back to the 14th century. It began life as a royal library collected by the French monarchs, and over the centuries it grew and developed to become one of the largest and most important cultural institutions in the world. Today, it is the largest library in France and one of the leading libraries in the world. Imagine its grandiose scale. The National Library of France occupies several buildings in different parts of Paris. The most famous is probably the historic building on Richelieu Street, with its magnificent reading rooms decorated with ancient frescoes and high carved ceilings. Here, you can feel the breath of centuries, permeated with history. But there is also a modern, futuristic building named after François Mitterrand, opened at the end of the 20th century in the 1990s. It consists of 4 towers, similar to open books, and is surrounded by a huge garden, creating an amazing contrast between the old and the new. The collections of this library are truly the richest. It contains millions of printed books, from the most ancient manuscripts and incunabula to modern electronic editions. In addition to books, here you can find unique collections of maps, engravings, photographs, coins, medals, and even sound recordings. Each document, each artifact stored here is evidence of human culture and history. The National Library of France plays a huge role in preserving the cultural heritage of not only France, but the entire world. It is a legal deposit library, meaning that every publisher in France is obliged to provide it with a copy of every book they publish. Thanks to this, its collections are constantly being replenished, preserving for future generations everything that is created in the French language and in France. Walking through these halls, both historical and modern, you can sense the incredible scale of human knowledge gathered under one roof. Here, in the quiet of the reading rooms, new ideas are born, and old knowledge is given new life. Let the image of this majestic library, its centuries-old heritage and modern scope, gently lull you into a world of calm and deep dreams. Our soothing journey through the world's great libraries takes us across the Atlantic to the capital of the United States, Washington, D.C. Here, in the heart of democracy, is the Library of Congress, not just a national library, but a giant, considered the largest library in the world by volume of its holdings. Imagine wide avenues, majestic monuments, and a sense of immensity. The history of this library began in the early 19th century, in the 1800s, when the U.S. Congress needed its own library for its legislators. Since then, it has grown steadily, surviving fires and wars, and today its collections are truly astounding. Imagine its unique architecture. The main building of the Library of Congress, known as the Thomas Jefferson Building, is an architectural masterpiece. Its facade is decorated with sculptures and bas-reliefs, and inside there is an indescribable atmosphere of grandeur. Its main reading room makes a special impression. You can imagine yourself standing under its majestic dome, decorated with frescoes, surrounded by endless rows of books reaching upwards. Here, in this spacious and bright room, you can feel the pulse of world thought. The Library of Congress has a dual role. It serves as a research library for the American Congress, providing lawmakers with all the information they need, and it is also the National Library of the United States. This means that it collects and preserves everything published in the United States, as well as significant amounts of international material. The diversity of its collections is truly astounding. It houses not only millions of books and periodicals in hundreds of languages, but also rare maps, manuscripts, photographs, films, music recordings, and even digital archives. From the oldest scrolls to the latest scientific works, from musical scores to comic books, the Library of Congress seeks to collect and preserve everything that reflects human knowledge and culture. Imagine the silence of its vaults, where each volume, each document, is carefully stored and cataloged. This is a place where history meets modernity, where the past is preserved for the future, and where every visitor, be it a scholar, a student, or an ordinary person, can touch the limitless sources of information. Let the image of this vast treasure trove of knowledge, its majestic halls and countless stories, gently lull you into a world of calm and deep dreams. Continuing our serene journey, We now delve into the more mysterious side of ancient libraries. Imagine not only the famous halls and open shelves, but also the whispered legends of secret passages, hidden rooms, and secret vaults that exist in many ancient buildings. These stories add a touch of mystery and intrigue, but remain calm and soothing. Why were such hidden places created? There could be several reasons. Firstly, it was to protect valuable manuscripts and rare editions. In turbulent times when wars and unrest could threaten cultural values, libraries needed secret refuges where the most priceless volumes could be hidden. Imagine massive wooden doors that blend into the wall, or inconspicuous panels that open into secret rooms. Secondly, such places could serve as a place for scholars to retreat. In large libraries where life was in full swing, some researchers needed absolute solitude for deep thought and work on important works. Hidden offices or small rooms with restricted access provided them with this opportunity. You can imagine a scholar who, in deep silence, by candlelight, is absorbed in studying an ancient manuscript in his secret room. Thirdly, in different eras, there were forbidden books. These could be heretical texts, politically dangerous works, or works that went against generally accepted norms. In order not to destroy these books completely, but also to prevent their wide distribution, they could be stored in carefully hidden places where only a few trusted people had access. This added a certain aura of mystery and hidden power to the library. There are many rumors and myths associated with these secret places. Some legends tell of underground tunnels leading from the libraries to other buildings, of rooms that appeared and disappeared, or of the ghosts of ancient monks and scholars who continue to wander these hidden corridors. Of course, most of them remain just fiction, but they do inspire our imagination and allow us to imagine libraries not only as repositories of knowledge, but also as places full of secrets. Imagine an old library at night. Perhaps listen for the slight creaking of the floorboards, which could be the footsteps of an unseen keeper of the secret, or for the faintest rustle, which could be the movement of a secret door. These thoughts should not frighten you, but rather gently envelop you with a sense of the ancient mystery that is present in every century-old building. Let these images of secret passages and hidden rooms filled with ancient secrets lull you gently into a world of dreams where even the most ordinary places can hold amazing secrets. Continuing our leisurely dive into the world of ancient libraries, let us now turn our attention to an equally important aspect of their existence: library catalogs and the amazing art of searching for knowledge. Imagine not only the books themselves, but also a complex yet elegant system that allows you to navigate this vast sea of information. Cataloging has changed dramatically over the centuries. In the most ancient libraries, like the one at Alexandria, catalogs could be clay tablets or papyrus lists that listed scrolls by title or author. Imagine a scribe carefully carving book titles into clay, creating the first indexes to treasures of wisdom. In the Middle Ages, in monastery scriptoria, catalogs were handwritten. They could be lists of books by subject, author, or even by location on the shelf. Each such list was unique and reflected the characteristics of a particular library. Imagine a massive leather-bound volume in which the titles of all the books in the monastery are written in calligraphic handwriting. With the advent of printing and the growth of book volumes, there was a need for more standardized and efficient systems. This is how various classification systems emerged. One of the most famous and widely used is the Dewey Decimal Classification, developed by Melville Dewey in the late 19th century in the 1800s. It divides all knowledge into 10 major classes, which are then broken down into smaller categories. This allows books to be logically organized by topic. Another influential system, the Library of Congress classification, is used by major academic and national libraries, including the Library of Congress itself. It uses alphanumeric designations for more detailed categorization. These systems, while seemingly complex, are actually keys to the library's treasures. The art of finding the right book among millions of volumes is a special skill. Imagine the feeling when you first enter a huge reading room or book depository. The air is filled with the faint smell of dust and old paper. Your eyes slide along the endless rows of spines, and so, armed with a catalog, you set off on this quiet adventure. The feeling of discovery when you finally find the right volume is something special. Your fingers run along the spines, your gaze catches a familiar title, and there you are, holding in your hands a book that contains exactly the knowledge you were looking for. It is a feeling of anticipation and satisfaction, a quiet exultation from a small victory. Library catalogs are not just lists. They are a complex, well-thought-out system that allows us to navigate the boundless world of information. They are invisible guides that lead us from question to answer, from curiosity to knowledge. Let these images of order, searching, and quiet discovery fill your mind with calm, carrying you to a peaceful, deep sleep. As we continue our leisurely journey, let us pause and allow our senses to be immersed in something very special that distinguishes old libraries and bookstores. It is the unique aroma of old books. Close your eyes and breathe in the scent. It is unique, like a mixture of vanilla, almond, light dust, and something else. Elusive, that evokes a sense of coziness and wisdom. That amazing smell isn't just a coincidence, it's the result of a chemical process. Over time, as paper ages, the cellulose and other organic compounds it's made of begin to slowly decompose. This process, called hydrolysis and oxidation, releases volatile organic compounds into the air. Each of these compounds has its own distinct aroma. For example, the lignin found in paper produces sweet vanilla notes when it decomposes. Other components may resemble almonds, flowers, wood, or even chocolate. It's the complex chemical bouquet that creates that instantly recognizable and beloved scent. For many people, this scent is associated with wisdom, history, and cozy calm. It can evoke deep memories of childhood, of first visits to the library, of hours spent reading favorite stories. It is a scent that takes us back in time, to a time when books were not just a source of information, but also an object of reverent treatment, a symbol of knowledge and discovery. Imagine walking between high shelves filled with old volumes. The air around you becomes thicker, filled with that special scent. You can almost feel it enveloping you, creating a feeling of security and peace. It's not just a smell, it's the scent of time, the concentrated echo of centuries of books spent in silence. In libraries where thousands and millions of such volumes are stored, this scent becomes part of the atmosphere, no less important than the architecture or the silence. It invites you to slow down, take a deep breath, and fully immerse yourself in a world where every page whispers its own stories. Let this special smell of old books fill your imagination and bring you a feeling of deep calm, gently lulling you to the sweetest of sleep. As our quiet journey continues, let us now turn our attention to those who have stood guard over knowledge throughout the centuries, who have dedicated their lives to preserving and passing on book treasures. These are the bookkeepers or librarians from ancient times to the relatively recent past. Imagine their focused faces, their caring hands turning the pages. In ancient civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia, the role of custodians of the scrolls was played by scribes and priests. They were responsible for ensuring that the papyri and clay tablets were carefully cataloged, stored safely, and made available to those who had the right to touch them. Their work required not only literacy, but also a deep respect for words and knowledge. You can imagine their slow, measured movements as they removed a scroll from its storage. In the Middle Ages, as we have already mentioned, this role was taken on by monks in scriptoria. They were not just copyists, but also the first librarians in the modern sense of the word. They not only copied texts, but also organized them, created the first catalogs, and looked after the preservation of manuscripts. Their lives were dedicated to this work, and their work had a deep spiritual meaning. Monastic librarians were true enthusiasts who understood the value of every copied page. With the advent of the Renaissance and the emergence of large royal and university libraries, the profession of librarian became more formalized. These people were not just custodians, but true scholars and erudites. They had to have deep knowledge in various fields in order to correctly classify and understand the contents of books, as well as to help researchers in their work. They were often authors, translators, and commentators themselves. What drives these people? It is, of course, a passion for books and an insatiable thirst for knowledge. Librarians have always been those who valued the wisdom contained in volumes and sought to make it accessible to others. Their endless patience, attention to detail, and willingness to help in finding the necessary information made them invaluable assistants to anyone who came to the library. Imagine an old librarian with kind eyes that have seen thousands of stories and hands that have carefully turned countless pages. His movements are calm and measured. His voice is quiet but full of wisdom. He does not just give out books. He is a guide in the world of knowledge, able to show the way to the most hidden treasures. Let this image of a wise and calm keeper of knowledge fill your mind, taking you to a soft and peaceful sleep. Our soothing journey continues, and now we move on to a sadder, but no less important, part of library history. These are the stories of those repositories of knowledge that have been lost to war, natural disaster, fire, or simply the inexorable passage of time. Reflecting on these losses helps us understand the true value of what has been preserved. Besides the famous Library of Alexandria, which we have already mentioned, there are many other examples of lost treasures. Imagine the libraries of ancient Rome. During the Roman Empire, there were many private and public libraries filled with scrolls and codices. For example, the famous Library of Caesar, which was never built, or the Library of the Palatine Hill, founded by Augustus. Many of these collections were destroyed during fires, internal conflicts, or the fall of the Roman Empire. We can only guess how many priceless texts, philosophical treatises, historical chronicles, and works of art were lost forever. During the Middle Ages and early modern period, many monastic libraries fell victim to various upheavals. During the Reformation in the 16th century, in the 1500s, many monasteries were dissolved and their libraries looted or destroyed. Books that had been copied and carefully preserved by monks for centuries could be burned as heretical or simply used as building material. Imagine the smoke from the fires in which unique manuscripts containing the knowledge and wisdom of generations disappeared. An example is the fate of Melk Monastery in Austria, which fortunately retained its grand library, but many other monasteries were not so lucky. Or consider the library of the Imperial Palace in Constantinople, which probably contained vast collections of ancient Greek and Roman texts, but was lost in the many sieges and sacks of the city. Each such loss is not simply the disappearance of books. It is the irretrievable loss of priceless knowledge, unique perspectives, and voices from the past. We will never know what philosophical ideas, scientific discoveries, or literary masterpieces might have been in these lost collections. It reminds us of the fragility of human heritage and the importance of every effort to preserve it. However, even from these sad stories, we can learn a lesson. They highlight the importance of preserving what remains. Thanks to the efforts of archaeologists, historians, and modern librarians, many fragments of lost knowledge can still be restored or identified. Let these thoughts of the past, of what is lost and what is saved, gently lull you to sleep, filling your consciousness with a sense of the value of every moment and every bit of knowledge we have. Continuing our gentle journey through the world of libraries, we will now focus on how these repositories of wisdom carefully preserve books that not only convey information, but change the world. Imagine volumes whose ideas have influenced the course of history, scientific discoveries, and humanity's very understanding of its place in the universe. We will not delve into the contents of these books, but will focus on their grandiose significance and how carefully they are preserved in libraries. Within these walls, you will find first editions of works that revolutionized scientific understanding. For example, On the Revolutions of the Celestial Spheres by Nicholas Copernicus, published in 1543. This book became the cornerstone of astronomy, proposing a heliocentric model of the world, where the Earth revolves around the Sun. The libraries contain rare first copies of this revolutionary work, evidence of the boldness of thought and scientific breakthrough. Or consider Charles Darwin's Origin of Species, published in 1859. This work forever changed biology and our understanding of life on Earth, proposing the theory of evolution by natural selection. Copies of the book, annotated in the margins and scorched by time, are treasured artifacts in the collections of great libraries. Think of the great philosophical treatises that have shaped civilization. The first editions of Plato, Aristotle, Kant, Rousseau. These books are not just collections of ideas. They are the foundations on which societies, legal systems, and moral principles have been built. In the quiet halls of libraries, these volumes continue to inspire new generations of thinkers. Libraries preserve evidence of human thought and progress in all its forms, from ancient medical treatises to the first maps that changed our understanding of the world. From great literary works that shaped our language and culture to laws that established order in societies. Each such book is not just an object, it is a living pulse of history, frozen in time. They are stored in special conditions at a certain temperature and humidity, protected from light and dust. Rare books and manuscripts are often kept in special storage facilities, access to which is strictly limited. This demonstrates deep respect for their historical and intellectual value. As you contemplate such books, you may feel not just the weight of the paper, but the weight of the ideas they contain. Let this awareness of the enormity of the human mind and the careful storage of its greatest achievements lull you gently into a world of calm and deep sleep. Our soothing journey continues as we take a look behind the scenes at libraries to learn about the incredibly painstaking and important art of book restoration and conservation. Imagine the hands of a master carefully working on a worn page, restoring its former strength and beauty. This is not just a repair, it is giving new life to old books, saving them from oblivion. Books, especially old ones, are vulnerable to many factors: time, humidity, light, insects, and even rough handling can cause irreparable damage. The paper becomes brittle, the ink fades, the bindings fall apart. This is where master restorers come into play. Their work begins with a thorough diagnosis. Each book is examined to understand the nature of the damage and determine the best way to restore it. Imagine a table lit by soft light with an old volume lying on it. The restorer carefully examines each page, each spine, like a doctor studying the medical history of his patient. Then comes the restoration process, which can be very long and labor-intensive. To restore damaged pages, special types of paper are used that match the original in composition and texture. Cracks and tears are carefully glued together using the finest starch-based glue. Imagine how the thinnest strips of rice paper or Japanese tissue paper are applied to the damaged areas, becoming invisible after drying. Tools which restorers use are simple, but require incredible precision. Fine tweezers, scalpels, brushes, special presses. Each step is carried out with the utmost care. If a binding is damaged, it may be disassembled, each part restored, and then reassembled, sometimes replacing lost elements with new materials that exactly match the historical ones. An important part of the job is preservation. This means creating conditions in which the books will be less susceptible to deterioration in the future. This includes maintaining optimal temperature and humidity in storage facilities, protecting them from ultraviolet light, and using special acid-free containers and storage materials. Imagine cool, darkened rooms where each volume rests in its own protective shell, like a cradle. This work is an act of deep respect for the past and care for the future. Restorers do not simply repair books, they preserve the history, thoughts, feelings of people who lived centuries ago. They give these old voices the opportunity to speak in the new time. Let this image of hard work, patience, and rebirth fill your mind with a sense of calm and confidence, carrying you to a peaceful and deep sleep. Our lulling journey through ancient libraries continues. Now let's imagine that we are sitting in a cozy corner of one of these majestic reading rooms. There is silence all around, broken only by the rare rustle of pages. In such places, where thousands of destinies and thoughts intersect, small but amazing stories sometimes happen. These stories are light and funny. They will not cause tension, but will only add a smile and calm. Imagine an old lady who one day found a dried four-leaf clover in an old volume of botany. It had been lying between the pages, green for almost a century. Someone who had read the book long ago had left it there as a good luck charm, or as a memory of a summer day. This little find became a real treasure for the lady, like a message from the past, filled with hope. Or imagine a young student who, while studying ancient maps, accidentally stumbles upon an inconspicuous note in the margins, made, as it turns out, by the hand of a famous 17th century explorer. It was not just a note, but a small personal reflection on the route that was not included in the official records. For the student, this was a real discovery, allowing him to look at the great man from a completely new perspective. There are also stories about unexpected encounters in reading rooms. They say that once in a European library, near the shelves with rare editions, two famous scientists who had been exchanging letters for years but had never seen each other in person met by chance. Their quiet acquaintance among the rows of books became the beginning of a long and fruitful friendship, confirming that books can connect people not only through time, but also through space. Sometimes there are funny requests from readers. Imagine a visitor to the library who asks for a book about sleep, but a very specific one that would help not him, but his very active cat to fall asleep. The librarian, of course, smiled, but was able to recommend several publications on animal psychology, filled with calming sounds of nature, in the hope that this would help the pet too. These small, cozy stories remind us that libraries are not just repositories of information, but also places where human life happens in all its diversity, with its discoveries, coincidences, curiosities, and quiet joys. Let these light and sweet stories fill your mind with peace and smile, gently lulling you to the sweetest sleep. Our quiet journey through the world of ancient libraries continues, and now we will present them at a special time of day when night falls. Imagine a library when its doors are closed to visitors and the last rays of the departing day slowly fade, giving way to the soft light of street lamps penetrating through the high windows. At this time, the library halls are filled with a unique atmosphere of mystery and deep tranquility. When the bustle of the day subsides, these vast buildings become almost completely silent. You can imagine a gentle breeze rustling old curtains, or a wooden floorboard creaking faintly under the weight of centuries somewhere in the depths of the book stacks. Every sound seems amplified in this silence, as if the library itself were speaking, sharing its secrets. In the silence of the night, listening to this whisper, you can almost feel the breath of history. Each book on the shelf, each ancient manuscript seems to come alive, telling its stories to invisible listeners. Imagine how the moonlight or the soft glow of street lamps slides along the spines of the books, illuminating the golden letters and worn bindings, creating a play of light and shadow that adds to the mystical beauty. When we think about libraries at night, we can imagine what secrets these walls hold when no one is around. Perhaps it is the whispers of forgotten philosophers who once spent long hours here in thought, or the quiet memories of great discoveries that were made in these very halls. It seems that the very air is saturated with knowledge, waiting to be awakened. There is no anxiety in these thoughts. On the contrary, the night library is an image of a refuge, a place where time slows down and the noise of the outside world disappears completely. It is a space for deep reflection, for dreams, and for complete relaxation. All the books are sleeping on their shelves, waiting for a new day, new readers, and new discoveries. Let this image of a library at night, filled with secrets and deep tranquility, gently envelop you. Let these sensations lull your mind, leading you to a serene and sweet sleep. Our gentle journey continues to gently lead us through the history of libraries. Now we turn to one of the most touching and heroic chapters in their annals, about how libraries and their staff became true havens for knowledge, saving priceless collections in times of war and disaster. These stories are full of selflessness and a deep understanding of the value of culture. Imagine a world engulfed in the flames of war. Cities are being destroyed. Cultural monuments are under threat of destruction. At such moments, libraries become the front line in the fight to preserve human heritage. Their employees, librarians, archivists, and ordinary citizens often risk their own lives to protect books. There are many examples of such heroic acts. During World War II, for example, many European libraries made incredible efforts to save their collections. Books were packed into boxes, moved to underground shelters, salt mines, or specially equipped bunkers. Imagine long lines of people passing heavy volumes from one to another, working day and night to remove or hide each valuable manuscript. It was a silent but desperate battle for the survival of culture. In London, during the Blitz, staff at the British Museum and other libraries worked under the constant threat of bombing. They created special storage facilities underground, reinforced buildings, and organized the evacuation of the most valuable exhibits to safe places in the countryside. You can imagine them continuing their painstaking work amid the blare of sirens and distant explosions. In St. Petersburg, during the siege of Leningrad, the staff of the Saltykov-Shchedrin Public Library not only saved books from cold and hunger, but also continued their scientific work, conducting research even under siege. They melted snow to maintain minimal humidity and protected the books as if they were their own children. This was a manifestation of incredible fortitude and dedication to their work. Such stories are a tribute to those who valued knowledge above all else. They understood that books were not just paper and ink, but the embodiment of human thought, experience, and wisdom that should be passed on to future generations. Their actions were an act of deep faith in the power of culture and education. Let these thoughts of courage and dedication fill your mind with a sense of calm and confidence that what is most precious will always find its protectors. Let these images lull you to a peaceful and deep sleep. As our quiet journey through the world of libraries continues, let's now reflect on how the physical space of libraries itself has changed over the centuries. Consider not just the books, but the architecture that surrounds them, and how it has been transformed to better serve the purpose of preserving and disseminating knowledge. In the most ancient times, such as in ancient Egypt, libraries may have been relatively small rooms in temples or palaces designed to store papyrus scrolls. Imagine clay jars neatly arranged along the walls, each containing a scroll, with perhaps a simple desk for the scribe in the center. These were scroll warehouses rather than reading rooms. With the advent of the Middle Ages and the development of monastic scriptoria, libraries became part of a larger complex. They were often long, narrow rooms with high windows to provide maximum natural light for copyists to work. Books could be stored on shelves along the walls or even in niches, often chained to tables for security. These were more organized spaces where reading and copying took place in one place. The Renaissance brought with it more majestic and open library spaces. Royal and university libraries emerged, becoming symbols of wealth and learning. Their architecture became more grandiose, high vaulted ceilings decorated with frescoes, columns, massive wooden shelves, often made of precious wood. Imagine spacious halls where light pours softly from high windows and books are arranged in rows, available for study. The 19th and early 20th centuries saw the construction of huge public libraries that sought to make knowledge accessible to all. These buildings were often monumental, with stately facades and spacious reading rooms that could accommodate hundreds of visitors. They featured separate book stacks where volumes were stored on tiered metal shelves, and the system of issuing books became increasingly complex and efficient. Today, in the 21st century, libraries continue to evolve. They are becoming multifunctional centers that, along with traditional books, also have computers, media centers, meeting spaces, and social events. Modern libraries often feature bold, innovative designs, glass and metal, and lots of open space. However, despite all the technological changes, the central idea remains access to knowledge and a cozy space to learn it. This evolution of the library space reflects society's changing attitudes toward knowledge and its dissemination. From closed repositories for a select few to open centers for all, libraries have always adapted while maintaining their core mission. Let these thoughts about the changing forms and unchanging essence of libraries gently lull you into a world of calm and deep dreams. Our soothing journey through the world of ancient libraries continues. Now let's focus on those books that contain not only text, but also something much more personal that connects us with their past owners: autographs and notes in the margins. Imagine as if someone from the past left you a small, barely noticeable message on the page. Every book, especially an old one, can be a witness to someone's life. Owners' signatures, whether beautifully or illegibly written on the flyleaf or title page, turn an ordinary copy into a unique artifact. It can be a simple signature, a date of purchase, or even a small dedication from the donor. Imagine a book on which you see the inscription, "To Mary with Love from John, 1872. Instantly, this book comes to life, telling of human connections that have long since disappeared. Even more intriguing can be the notes in the margins, the so-called marginalia. These can be short comments, exclamations, questions the reader asked of the text, or even small drawings. Sometimes these notes are made by the hand of a person whose mind was as great as the one who wrote the book itself. Imagine holding a volume in which you see notes in the margins made by the hand of a famous philosopher or scientist. These notes give us a unique insight into how great minds interacted with the text, what they agreed with, and what they questioned. These details, autographs, notes, dried flowers, or old bookmarks forgotten between the pages add uniqueness to each book. They transform it from a simple collection of sheets into a real object with its own biography. Each such book becomes a silent witness of someone's life, someone's thoughts and emotions. It's like touching an invisible thread that connects you with a person who read these same lines decades or even centuries ago. In libraries, such books are especially highly valued. They are carefully stored in rare book sections, and each such mark is carefully studied. After all, this is not just ink on paper, it is the imprint of someone's thoughts, evidence of a dialogue between the reader and the author that stretches through time. Let these images of personal touches to history, to invisible dialogues through the centuries, gently fill your mind with a feeling of warmth and calm, lulling you to sleep and leading you to the sweetest dreams. Our quiet journey through the world of ancient libraries is gradually coming to an end. And now let's go back to a special time, to childhood, when the world seemed huge and full of wonders, and the library was one of the most magical places. Imagine your earliest childhood memories of libraries. Perhaps it was your first visit, or the feeling when you first picked up a book you had chosen yourself. For many people, it was the library that first opened up the world of books. Remember how you may have timidly entered those doors, feeling a slight trepidation. The high shelves, so far away, seemed like mysterious mountains full of treasures. The smell of fresh paper mingled with the aroma of old, tattered volumes, and that smell was forever etched in your memory. The first encounter with a library was often accompanied by a sense of adventure. You remember how important it was to get your library card. It was like a pass to a secret society. Then you had to wander between the rows, look at the bright covers, carefully take out books, feeling their spines. It was a whole ritual of selection that foreshadowed hours of fascinating reading. Remember that moment when you found that book that attracted you most. Perhaps it was a story about distant lands, brave knights, talking animals, or fantasy worlds. You took it in your hands, felt its weight, and then the magic began. Each page was a portal to a new reality, each chapter a step into the unknown. These childhood experiences of libraries were filled not only with a sense of discovery, but also with a sense of calm and safety. The library was a quiet place where you could retreat to a book without being afraid of the noise or bustle of the outside world. It was a place to dream, to learn, and to just be yourself. Let those warm, nostalgic memories of your own childhood and first encounters with books fill your mind. Let that feeling of coziness and magic gently lull you to the sweetest and most serene dreams. As our peaceful journey draws to a close, we turn our gaze to the future, contemplating what the future will be like for libraries in the digital age. Imagine a world where information is instantly accessible, but the deep value of traditional knowledge is preserved. The digital age has brought with it many challenges for libraries. The internet, e-books, and online databases have made information incredibly accessible. Many wonder, will there be a need for physical libraries when almost everything can be found online? However, paradoxically, these challenges also present enormous opportunities. Libraries are actively adapting to the new reality, becoming hybrid centers where the digital world coexists harmoniously with traditions. They offer access to electronic resources, create their own digital collections, provide computers and high-speed internet. Imagine a modern reading room where next to a person leafing through an ancient tome, another sits working on a laptop connected to global databases. Despite all the technological changes, the value of a physical book and the unique atmosphere of a library will remain unchanged. There is something special about holding a paper book in your hands, feeling its weight, its smell, the rustle of the pages. It is a tactile and sensory experience that cannot be fully reproduced in a digital format. The old libraries we talked about today will continue to attract those who seek depth, silence, and a special contact with history. Libraries of the future are not only information repositories, but also public spaces. They are places where people can meet, exchange ideas, and learn new things. They are centers for lectures, master classes, and interest clubs. They become living community nodes while maintaining their core mission of being a source of knowledge and wisdom. They will continue to play a key role in ensuring equal access to information for everyone, regardless of their social or economic status. Not everyone has access to high-speed internet or the ability to buy ebooks, and libraries fill this gap. Thus, the future of libraries is not a rejection of the past, but a harmony between the old and the new. It will be a world where ancient manuscripts are carefully stored next to servers filled with terabytes of information. These will be places where age-old wisdom meets cutting-edge technology, creating a unique space for learning. Let these thoughts of a future where tradition and innovation intertwine fill your mind with calm and confidence, lulling you to a peaceful and deep sleep. Our long but soothing journey through ancient libraries is coming to an end. Imagine that we are taking a last farewell look at these majestic and calm halls before leaving them. Let your gaze slowly slide over the high shelves filled with thousands of books, each of which is a world in miniature. Think of the soft play of light and shadow that is created in ancient halls. Perhaps the rays of the setting sun or the dim light of a lamp fall on the gold letters on the spines, creating a feeling of warmth and coziness. The air here is still filled with that special sweet smell of old paper that we discussed earlier. This aroma seems to hang in the air like an invisible aura of knowledge. Each book on these shelves is waiting for its reader. It is ready to share its story, its wisdom, its adventures. Some of them may not have been opened for decades, but their content has not faded at all. They are simply patiently waiting for the moment when someone's hands will touch their binding again and eyes will begin to read the lines. This feeling of farewell should not be sad. On the contrary, it is filled with a sense of gratitude for the path we have traveled and the peace we have found. We have touched great ideas, immersed ourselves in the atmosphere of centuries-old silence, and felt a connection with the countless minds that have ever sought knowledge within these walls. Let the image of these endless rows of books waiting for their readers and the sense of peace they give gently fill your mind. We leave these walls, but the wisdom and peace we have gained on this journey through libraries remain with us. And so our quiet and soothing journey through ancient libraries has come to an end. We walked through the centuries, touched ancient scrolls, wandered through monastery scriptoria and majestic reading rooms, smelled the aroma of old paper, and learned about the exploits of the keepers of knowledge. I hope this leisurely journey helped you to escape from everyday life and find a deep sense of peace. Now, while the words and images of these amazing places still float softly in your mind, allow yourself to completely relax. Let go of all the thoughts that may disturb your mind. Your body is tired from the day, and it deserves to rest. Imagine yourself slowly sinking into the soft embrace of sleep. Your breathing becomes even and deep. Each inhale brings calm. Each exhale takes away the remnants of tension. Feel your eyelids grow heavy and your muscles relax. May the wisdom and peace you have gained from this journey through the libraries remain with you. May they be a soft blanket that wraps you around you during the night. The world of knowledge is always open and waiting for us, but now is the time to rest. Close your eyes if you haven't already. Feel the warmth and comfort of your haven. There is nothing to worry about. All worries will remain until tomorrow, and now is the time for a deep and restorative sleep. Good night, dear friends. May your dreams be light and serene, filled with the silence of ancient books and the whisper of centuries-old stories. Until we meet again soon on new journeys, sleep tight.